The snow falls heavy on Chicago's Michigan Avenue as millionaire Nathan Brooks steps out of his black Tesla, the cold December air cutting through his $1,000 cashmere coat. But what happened next shocked everyone who witnessed it, including Nathan himself. He walks past the usual crowd of holiday shoppers, their arms loaded with designer bags, when he spots her. Sarah Johnson sits huddled against the brick wall of a closed storefront, a cardboard sign in her weathered hands reading, "Anything helps. God bless." Her thin frame shivers beneath layers of torn clothing, and Nathan can see her breath forming small clouds in the frigid air. Most people stride past without a glance, but Nathan stops. Something about her quiet dignity strikes him. Little did Nathan know that this moment would change both their lives forever. "Excuse me," Nathan says, crouching down to her level. "When's the last time you had a hot meal?" Sarah looks up, startled. Her eyes are clear despite her circumstances, intelligent, proud. I don't need charity, sir. Just whatever you can spare." "That wasn't what I asked." Nathan's voice is gentle but persistent. "Come on, there's a diner around the corner. Let me buy you dinner." Sarah hesitates, studying his face for any sign of ulterior motives. She's been on the streets long enough to recognize danger, but something about this well-dressed stranger feels different. Safe even. "Why?" she asks simply. Nathan pauses, the question hitting deeper than expected. Why is he doing this? The honest answer sits heavy in his chest: guilt, regret, the weight of recent mistakes that money can't fix. "Because everyone deserves a warm meal," he finally says. "Especially on a night like this." 20 minutes later, they sit across from each other in Mel's 24-hour diner, the kind of place where truckers and night shift workers grab coffee at 3 a.m. Sarah cradles a steaming mug of coffee like its precious treasure, while Nathan watches her devour a plate of meatloaf and mashed potatoes. "You don't eat like someone who's been on the streets long," Nathan observes. Sarah's fork pauses midway to her mouth. 3 months, she admits. "Lost my job at the insurance company when they downsized. Couldn't make rent." She shrugs, but Nathan catches the shame flickering across her features. Turns out a college degree doesn't mean much when you're competing with 100 other people for the same minimum wage job. The words sting because Nathan knows the truth behind them. His own company, Brooks Financial, had laid off 200 employees just 6 months ago to boost quarterly profits. How many Sarah Johnsons had he created without even thinking about it? "What about family?" he asks. "My parents died in a car accident 2 years ago. No siblings." Sarah's voice remains steady, matter-of-fact. "Sometimes life just happens, you know? One day you're planning your future, the next day everything falls apart." Nathan nods, understanding more than she realizes. His own life had imploded just 3 weeks ago when his 5-year relationship ended. Olivia Green, his fiancée, had returned his ring with words that still echo in his mind. "You love your money more than you could ever love me, Nathan. And I can't compete with Chase Bank statements." But the real shock was still coming. "So what's your story?" Sarah asks, turning the conversation. Successful businessman takes random homeless woman to dinner. There's got to be more to it. Nathan fidgets with his coffee cup. "Let's just say I'm having what you might call a crisis of conscience." "Ah," Sarah nods knowingly. "The kind where you suddenly realize money doesn't buy happiness?" "Something like that." Nathan's laugh comes out bitter. "Though I'm sure that sounds pretty privileged coming from someone who probably has more money in his wallet than you've seen in months." "Actually, it doesn't," Sarah says, surprising him. "Pain is pain, regardless of your bank account balance. Rich people can be just as miserable as poor people. They just have better thread counts on their sheets while they're crying." This decision would change everything, but Nathan doesn't know that yet as he finds himself genuinely laughing for the first time in weeks. There's something refreshing about Sarah's honesty, her lack of pretense. In his world of corporate politics and social climbing, genuine human connection has become a rare commodity. "You know what's funny?" Nathan says, leaning back in the vinyl booth. "I've spent the last week dreading tomorrow, and talking to you is the first time I've felt normal." What's tomorrow? Nathan's stomach tightens. The question he's been avoiding all week, the reason he's been walking the streets instead of sleeping, the event that's been eating at him like acid. My ex-fiancée's wedding, he admits quietly. She's marrying someone else. Tomorrow. Sarah's eyes widen slightly. And you're going? I have to. Business obligation, her father's been our biggest client for 10 years. Plus, He trails off, unsure how to explain the complex web of guilt, curiosity, and masochistic need for closure that's driving him to attend. A crazy idea begins forming in Nathan's mind, so impulsive and unexpected that it surprises even him. He looks across at Sarah, this woman who's lost everything but somehow maintains more dignity than most of the millionaires he knows. Sarah, he says slowly, I know this is going to sound completely insane, but would you consider being my date? Sarah nearly chokes on her coffee. You're what? To the wedding. Tomorrow. I know how it sounds, but I could really use someone there who isn't part of all the politics and history. Someone real. Sarah stares at him like he's lost his mind, which maybe he has, but something about the way she's looking at him, not with calculation or interest in his wealth, but with genuine concern for his well-being, makes him certain this is exactly what he needs to do. Nathan, she says carefully, I'm homeless. I haven't had a shower in 3 days. I own exactly 2 changes of clothes, and neither of them would be appropriate for a millionaire's wedding. We can fix all of that. That's not the point. Sarah shakes her head. Why would you want to complicate your life like this? What would people think? Nathan considers the question seriously. What would people think? His business associates, his social circle, Olivia herself, they'd all be scandalized. It would be social suicide. And maybe that's exactly what he needs. Honestly, Nathan meets her eyes. I don't care anymore what people think. I've spent my whole life playing by their rules, and where has it gotten me? Alone in a diner on a Friday night, dreading the biggest social event of the year. Sarah is quiet for a long moment, studying his face. This isn't about helping me, is it? This is about whatever point you're trying to make. Maybe, Nathan admits, but that doesn't make it wrong. We could help each other. You get a night off the streets, some good food, maybe a little dignity. I get someone in my corner who doesn't have an agenda. The offer hangs between them in the warm diner air, loaded with possibilities and dangers neither of them can fully comprehend yet. The steam from Nathan's coffee cup rises between them as silence stretches across their small diner booth. Sarah's weathered hands wrap around her warm mug, still trembling slightly from the cold that seems to have settled permanently in her bones. The fluorescent lights buzz overhead, casting harsh shadows that make Nathan's expensive suit look almost out of place against the cracked vinyl seating. Sarah. Nathan begins, his voice carrying an uncertainty she hasn't heard before. I need to tell you something. He pauses, running his fingers through his dark hair. Tomorrow is my ex-fiancée's wedding. Sarah's eyes widen over the rim of her coffee cup. She sets it down carefully, the ceramic clinking against the chipped saucer. Your ex-fiancé? That must be difficult. Nathan lets out a bitter laugh. Difficult doesn't begin to cover it. Olivia Green. We were supposed to get married 2 years ago. His jaw tightens as he stares out the frosted window at the Chicago street beyond. But I was so obsessed with making money, with proving myself, that I forgot what really mattered. I worked 18-hour days, missed dinners, canceled vacations. I thought success meant having the biggest bank account. What happened? Sarah asks softly, recognizing the pain in his voice because she knows it intimately herself. She left, said she felt like she was engaged to a ghost, not a man. And you know what? She was right. Nathan's hands clench into fists on the table. I chose my portfolio over our relationship, and now she's marrying someone who probably remembers her birthday and shows up for dinner. The weight of Nathan's confession hangs between them. Sarah has seen that look before, in the mirrors of public restrooms when she catches her reflection. It's the look of someone who's lost everything that mattered. But what Nathan says next makes Sarah's heart skip a beat. I want you to come with me. To the wedding. The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. She actually recoils, pressing her back against the booth's cushion. What? Nathan, I can't. Are you serious right now? Dead serious. Nathan leans forward, his blue eyes intense. I've been dreading this wedding for months. The thought of walking in there alone, facing all those people who know what a fool I made of myself. But why me? Sarah's voice cracks with disbelief. I'm homeless, Nathan. I haven't had a real shower in weeks. These people in your world, they'll take one look at me and what? Judge you? Nathan's voice grows firmer. Let them. Maybe it's time they see what real strength looks like. Sarah shakes her head frantically. You don't understand. I don't belong in that world. I can barely afford this meal you bought me, and you want me to go to some fancy wedding? I don't even have clothes for something like that. The diner feels smaller suddenly, the conversations at other tables fading into background noise. Sarah's breathing becomes shallow as panic sets in. This is too much, too fast, too impossible. Nathan reaches across the table, his warm hand covering her cold one. Sarah, listen to me. I've spent the last 2 years replaying every mistake I made with Olivia. Every time I chose work over love, money over meaning. But meeting you today, seeing your grace despite everything you've been through, it reminded me of something I'd forgotten. What's that? She whispers. That wealth isn't measured by what you have. It's measured by who you are when everything's been stripped away. Nathan's grip tightens gently. You've lost your home, your security, probably people you loved. But you're still here, still fighting, still human. That's real strength, Sarah. That's what I want by my side tomorrow. Sarah stares at him, searching his face for any sign that this is some elaborate joke. But his eyes hold nothing but sincerity and something else, something that looks almost like desperation. Nathan, I appreciate what you're saying, but I can't just show up to your ex-fiancée's wedding. What would people think? What would she think? Honestly, I don't care anymore. For 2 years, I've been paralyzed by what people might think, what they might say about my failure. But you know what I realized sitting here with you? Nathan's voice grows stronger. The only opinion that should have mattered was Olivia's, and I ignored that. Now it's too late for us, but it's not too late for me to stop being a coward. A flashback washes over Nathan's memory like a tide. He sees himself in his penthouse office 2 years ago, the Chicago skyline glittering beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. Olivia had been standing in his doorway wearing the blue dress he'd bought her for their anniversary dinner, the one they never made it to because of an emergency board meeting he couldn't miss. Nathan, we need to talk, she had said, her voice steady but her eyes already distant. Can it wait, babe? This merger could set us up for life. That's just it? Olivia had replied, stepping into the office that felt more like home to him than their shared apartment ever did. We're already set up for life. We have enough money to live comfortably forever. But when was the last time we actually lived? He had barely looked up from his computer screen. After this deal closes, we'll take that vacation to Italy you wanted. First class, 5-star hotels, whatever you want. I don't want Italy, Nathan. I want you. I want the man I fell in love with, the one who used to notice when I was in the room. But Nathan had kept typing, kept working, kept believing that one more deal would fix everything. By the time he finally looked up, Olivia was gone, and the engagement ring he'd spent 3 months' salary on was sitting on his desk next to a note that simply said, I'm sorry we couldn't make this work. The memory fades as Sarah's voice brings him back to the present. Nathan, you're scaring me a little. This doesn't make sense. Why would you want me there? Really? Nathan meets her eyes, and for the first time in years, he tells the complete truth. Because maybe if Olivia sees that I've learned to value people over profit, she'll know that losing her wasn't meaningless. That it changed me. Sarah's expression shifts from confusion to understanding, then to something that might be disappointment. So I'm just a prop? A way to prove a point to your ex? No, Nathan says quickly. That came out wrong. Sarah, you're not a prop. You're the most real person I've met in years. Everyone in my world wears masks, says what they think you want to hear. But you've got nothing to hide behind, and somehow that makes you braver than all of us. The coffee shop seems to hold its breath as Sarah considers his words. Her fingers trace the rim of her mug while Nathan waits, his heart pounding with an anxiety he hasn't felt since his last conversation with Olivia. Finally, Sarah looks up, her eyes showing a mixture of fear and something that might be hope. If I say yes, and I'm not saying I will, but if I did, what would you tell people about who I am? The truth, Nathan replies without hesitation. That you're my friend, and you're exactly where you belong. Sarah's hesitation is written across her face as she stares out at the snowy Chicago street, her reflection ghost-like in the window, and Nathan realizes that her answer will change both of their lives forever. Nathan stares at the elegant boutique's glass facade, his breath visible in the cold Chicago air. Are you sure about this? Sarah asks, tugging at her worn coat. Her voice trembles slightly as she takes in the pristine mannequins dressed in clothes worth more than most people's monthly rent. Trust me, Nathan says, though uncertainty flickers across his face. He pushes open the heavy glass door, and they step into a world of marble floors and crystal chandeliers. The warmth hits them immediately, but so does the atmosphere of exclusivity. A perfectly manicured sales associate glides toward them, her smile faltering as her eyes sweep over Sarah's appearance. Can I help you? She asks, her tone suggesting they might be lost. Nathan's jaw tightens. We need a dress. Something elegant for a wedding. The woman's eyebrows raise almost imperceptibly. Of course. Right this way. She leads them past racks of designer gowns, her heels clicking against the floor like a countdown timer. Sarah's fingers brush against a midnight blue dress, and she quickly pulls her hand back as if she's been burned. Nathan, I can't do this. These dresses cost more than I've seen in years. Money isn't the issue here, he says firmly, but his own doubts creep in. What is he really trying to prove? Is this about helping Sarah? Or is it about showing up to Olivia's wedding with someone on his arm? The sales associate returns with several options, draping them over her arm like precious artifacts. These might work, she says, though her tone suggests otherwise. Another customer, an older woman in fur, whispers something to her companion while staring pointedly at Sarah. You know what? Maybe we should go somewhere else, Sarah whispers, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. But Nathan has had enough. He steps closer to the sales associate, his voice carrying the authority that built his fortune. My friend here deserves the same respect as any other customer. Are we going to have a problem? The woman's demeanor shifts instantly. Of course not, sir. Let me show you to our private fitting room. As Sarah disappears behind the curtain with several dresses, Nathan paces the small waiting area. His reflection in the mirror shows a man wrestling with his own motivations. Is he using Sarah to make a statement? The thought makes his stomach churn. How about this one? Sarah's voice is barely above a whisper as she steps out in an emerald green dress that transforms her completely. The fabric seems to give her confidence, straightening her shoulders and lifting her chin. Nathan's breath catches. Sarah, you look like I don't belong here, she finishes, her old insecurities surfacing. Like you belong anywhere you choose to be, he says, and he means it. Something shifts in his chest, a recognition that this isn't about the wedding anymore. This is about seeing someone discover their own worth. But will taking her to face his past be another mistake? As they approach the counter to pay, Nathan's phone buzzes. A text message from Olivia appears on the screen. Nathan, I heard you're coming tomorrow. We need to talk. There are things you don't understand about why we ended. His hands freeze over the phone. After all this time, after all the pain and regret, she wants to explain? Sarah notices his expression change and places a gentle hand on his arm. Second thoughts? She asks softly. Nathan looks at her, then at the message, then back at her transformed face in the boutique's flattering lights. Tomorrow will bring answers he's not sure he's ready to hear, and Sarah will be right there beside him when everything he thought he knew about his past comes crashing down. The morning of the wedding arrives with a crisp Chicago breeze that seems to carry all of Nathan's anxieties with it. As he adjusts his tie in the mirror of his penthouse, his hands tremble slightly. Sarah emerges from the guest room, and for a moment, Nathan forgets how to breathe. The elegant navy dress transforms her completely, but it's the quiet confidence radiating from her that truly stops him in his tracks. "You clean up pretty well yourself," Sarah says, attempting to lighten the mood as she notices his nervous energy. But her voice betrays her own apprehension. The drive to the Grand Marquis Hotel passes in relative silence, both lost in their thoughts. Nathan grips the steering wheel tighter as they pull into the circular driveway lined with luxury cars and impeccably dressed guests. The hotel towers above them, its glass facade reflecting the morning sun like a beacon of wealth and privilege. "Last chance to back out," Nathan whispers, but Sarah is already opening her door. "We've come this far," she replies with a determination that surprises them both. As they walk through the ornate lobby, whispers follow in their wake. Nathan recognizes faces from his business circles, old friends and former colleagues. Their expressions range from confusion to outright judgment as they take in the unlikely pair. Sarah holds her head high, but Nathan can feel the tension radiating from her body. "Nathan Brooks," a familiar voice calls out. Richard Hutchinson, Nathan's former business partner, approaches with his wife trailing behind. "Didn't expect to see you here, considering." His voice trails off as his eyes land on Sarah. "Richard, I'd like you to meet Sarah Johnson," Nathan says, his voice steady despite the challenge in Richard's gaze. The awkward pleasantries that follow are interrupted by a commotion near the ceremony entrance. Olivia Green appears, radiant in her designer wedding gown, but her smile falters the moment she spots Nathan. Her eyes narrow as they shift to Sarah, and Nathan watches as a storm of emotions crosses his ex-fiancée's face. But here's the thing that nobody saw coming. Olivia doesn't just glance and move on. She marches directly toward them, her wedding dress flowing behind her like a declaration of war. "Nathan." Olivia's voice is ice-cold despite the warmth of her smile. "How thoughtful of you to attend." Her gaze fixes on Sarah with unmistakable hostility. "And you brought a guest." "Olivia, congratulations," Nathan replies, feeling Sarah stiffen beside him. "This is Sarah Johnson." "Charmed," Olivia says without extending her hand. "Nathan, could I speak with you privately for a moment?" Before Nathan can respond, Olivia is already walking toward a secluded alcove near the hotel's grand staircase. Nathan glances at Sarah apologetically, but she nods for him to go. The moment they're alone, Olivia's composure cracks. "What game are you playing, Nathan? Bringing some random woman to my wedding? Are you trying to embarrass me?" "This isn't about you, Olivia," Nathan says, surprised by his own calm tone. Sarah needed what? A charity case? A tax write-off? Olivia's voice rises dangerously. "You always did have a savior complex, but this is pathetic even for you." Nathan feels something shift inside him, a protective instinct he hadn't expected. "You don't know anything about her." "I know enough." I can smell desperation from across the room. Olivia steps closer, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "You're doing this for attention, Nathan. You can't stand that I'm happy without you." For a moment, Nathan sees the woman he once loved, the woman whose ambition matched his own. But now all he sees is someone consumed by appearances and status, someone he's grateful he didn't marry. "You want to know why I brought Sarah?" Nathan's voice carries a conviction that surprises even him. "Because she's taught me more about being human in 2 days than you did in 3 years. Olivia's face flushes with anger and something else, hurt, perhaps, or recognition of a truth she doesn't want to acknowledge. "You're going to regret this," she hisses before turning on her heel and storming back toward the ceremony. Nathan returns to find Sarah exactly where he left her, composed despite the curious stares and whispered conversations swirling around her. But he can see the question in her eyes, the fear that maybe she doesn't belong here after all. "Everything okay?" she asks quietly. Nathan looks at this woman who has somehow become his anchor in just 2 short days, and realizes that for the first time in years, everything actually might be okay. "Come on," he says, offering her his arm. "Let's go to a wedding." As they walk toward the ceremony space, Nathan has no idea that Sarah is about to do something that will change not just this wedding, but every single person in attendance. The reception that follows will become the talk of Chicago's social scene for months to come, but not for any reason anyone could possibly expect. The reception buzzes with the energy of celebration as elegant guests mingle beneath crystal chandeliers in the grand ballroom. Nathan and Sarah sit at their assigned table, both acutely aware of the whispered conversations and sideways glances that follow them throughout the room. The weight of the afternoon's confrontation with Olivia still hangs heavy in the air, but Sarah sits with surprising composure, her borrowed dress somehow making her appear more confident than Nathan has ever seen her. As the evening progresses, the wedding party settles into their seats for the traditional speeches. Olivia's father delivers a heartfelt toast, followed by the maid of honor's light-hearted anecdotes. The microphone then passes to a few close friends, each sharing memories and well wishes for the happy couple. Nathan watches nervously as several guests glance in their direction, clearly wondering if he'll speak. Then something extraordinary happens. Sarah quietly stands up, her chair scraping softly against the marble floor. Nathan's eyes widen in alarm as she begins walking toward the front of the room, her chin held high despite the sea of confused faces turning to stare. The DJ notices her approach and hesitantly hands over the microphone, unsure of the protocol. "Excuse me," Sarah's voice carries across the suddenly silent ballroom, steady and clear despite the tremor Nathan knows she must be feeling inside. "I know I'm probably the last person you'd expect to hear from tonight, and I genuinely hope you don't mind me taking just a moment of your time." The tension in the room is palpable. Olivia sits frozen at the head table, her new husband's eyebrows furrowed in confusion. Nathan feels his heart hammering against his ribs, terrified of what Sarah might say but somehow deeply proud of her courage. "My name is Sarah Johnson, and up until yesterday, I was living on the streets of Chicago," she continues, her voice growing stronger with each word. "I know what you're all thinking. What is a homeless woman doing at this beautiful wedding? Well, I'm here because of the extraordinary kindness of Nathan Brooks, who saw me not as someone to pity or ignore, but as a human being worthy of dignity and respect." A murmur ripples through the crowd, but Sarah presses on, undeterred. "I don't know most of you, and you certainly don't know me, but I know what it's like to lose everything: your home, your job, your sense of self-worth. I know what it feels like to believe that your story is over, that your best days are behind you, that you're nothing more than the circumstances that brought you low." Nathan watches as several guests lean forward in their chairs, genuinely captivated by Sarah's raw honesty. Even Olivia's expression has shifted from hostility to something approaching curiosity. "But today, I learned something important," Sarah says, her eyes finding Nathan's across the room. "I learned that sometimes, when we're brave enough to show kindness to strangers, when we're willing to see past someone's exterior circumstances to their heart, we don't just change their lives, we change our own. Nathan didn't invite me here to hurt anyone or make a statement. He invited me because he understood something that I think we all sometimes forget." She pauses, taking a deep breath as tears begin to glisten in her eyes. "We all deserve second chances. We all deserve to be seen, to be valued, to be reminded that our stories aren't over just because we've hit rough patches. Nathan gave me that gift today, not just a beautiful dress or a fancy dinner, but the reminder that I'm still here, I still matter, and I still have something to contribute to this world." The ballroom has fallen completely silent now, even the servers having stopped their movements to listen. Sarah's voice breaks slightly as she continues, "I want to thank Olivia and Marcus for allowing me to share in the joy of their special day, even though I know my presence here was unexpected. Your wedding is beautiful, and your love is evident to everyone in this room. But more than that, your grace in handling this unusual situation shows the kind of people you are, the kind of people who make this world more beautiful." She turns back to address the entire room, her voice ringing with conviction. "We live in a world that often judges people by their bank accounts, their zip codes, their job titles. But real wealth, the kind that actually matters, is measured by how we treat the people who can do nothing for us in return. It's measured by our capacity for compassion, our willingness to lift others up, and our ability to see the divine spark in every human being we encounter. As Sarah's words sink in, Nathan notices something remarkable happening. Hardened business associates are wiping their eyes. Society matrons who had earlier looked down their noses are nodding in agreement. Even the wedding photographer has lowered his camera, completely absorbed in Sarah's message. So I want to challenge everyone here tonight, Sarah concludes, her voice rising with passion, to look for opportunities to show kindness to strangers, to remember that everyone you meet is fighting battles you know nothing about, to choose compassion over judgment, understanding over assumption. Because when we do that, we don't just change individual lives. We change the world, one act of kindness at a time. She sets the microphone back in its stand to thunderous applause, the kind that starts slow and builds until the entire room is on their feet. Nathan rises from his chair, his eyes filled with pride and amazement at the woman who just moments ago was doubting her worth. As Sarah makes her way back through the crowd, guests reach out to shake her hand, to thank her, to share their own stories of struggle and redemption. Olivia appears beside Nathan as Sarah approaches their table, her earlier animosity completely dissolved. "Nathan," she says softly, her voice thick with emotion, "I owe you an apology, and I owe her my gratitude. What she just did, that was incredible." Nathan nods, still too moved to speak properly. "She's remarkable," he manages to say. As the evening winds down and guests begin to depart, Nathan and Sarah make their way toward the exit. The night air feels crisp and clean as they step outside the Grand Hotel, both of them changed by the evening's events in ways they're only beginning to understand. "Thank you," Nathan says quietly as they walk toward his car, "for being braver than I ever could have been." Sarah smiles, the kind of smile that transforms her entire face. "Thank you for reminding me who I really am." As they drive away from the hotel, both Nathan and Sarah understand that this is not an ending, but a beginning, the start of a journey toward becoming the people they were always meant to be, armed with the knowledge that true transformation begins with a single act of unexpected kindness.